Hello, welcome back to another episode of the OG podcast. I am here with Brennan Shlagbaum, budget dog, and he just released a best-selling book called The Roadmap to Financial Freedom, a millionaire's guide to building automated wealth. He is a former corporate CPA turned self-made debt-free millionaire, social media influencer who reaches hundreds of thousands of people daily posting on financial advice. And today he's here to share his insight with us on really building that millionaire mindset and creating financial freedom. So welcome, Brennan. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks, Olivia. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I want to start with just the most hard-hitting question to get people thinking, but what do you believe is the best and fastest path to creating financial freedom just for the average person?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I've worked with a lot of people at this point in time. I think I've worked with, I want to say at least 2,000 individuals over the last 5 years, whether it be one-on-one, whether it be in my group, Budget Dog Academy. There's a lot of people I've worked with, and I've seen a consistent trend is a lot of people try to get rich quick, and they try to skip the foundation that actually matters, that gives them that base layer to grow wealth forever. And so if I were looking to the fastest path, I'd say starting your own business is without question probably your fastest path. But I do think one thing, the route I personally went was mastering the foundation. And like you mentioned, the Roadmap to Financial Freedom book it's pretty much the story I went through the last decade. And I think the biggest thing is mastering the foundation of finance, which is personal finance, which is what I talk to people every day about. Once you have that down, now you can go a lot faster. You can take bigger chances, bigger swings and things like that. But if you skip the emergency fund, you skip paying your bills on time, you skip retirement investing, non-retirement investing, the basics, paying off bad debt, you're putting yourself in a really, really big predicament where it's going to be hard to ever catch up because, let's say an emergency happens and you're trying to run a million miles an hour, but you haven't taken care of the basics, you're going to be, 10 steps behind. So the thing is, once you get that foundation set, then you can start to move faster. You can do, different real estate deals and different investments that you have and bigger swings and maybe take a chance on that business, quit your 9 to 5, exactly what I did. But I had to get myself right before I could do that. And then once I did that, things took off in a major way. But that took a decade. It wasn't overnight. And, the first 7 years of that process was a grind, but it paid off in a big way.
I'm so glad you're being transparent about the grind involved in building that freedom, because I always tell our clients too, it's like they come in and they want to race to the top. And it's like, hold on, you don't even have basic positive cash flow right now. Like you're on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You need security and safety. You can't build wealth without that. So from your perspective, where do you feel like is safety that people should have to be able to then start thinking wealth?
Yeah, I think this whole safety thing is very in Maslow's hierarchy of needs is spot on to exactly that, because I think this me personally what I've done, and this is the everything in my brand I talk about personally what I've done, and I've just shared my journey, and so it's very raw and real about what I've done. And so the first 5 years at Deloitte, I mean it was a job in my eyes. It was a great job. I was moving my way up to partner. But I realized I had to get my footing financially correct before I took that leap of faith on Budget Dog. And so I wanted to take the leap, but I'm not a big risk taker in the sense of, that entrepreneur like Elon Musk that sleeps on his, parents' floor or basement for, 8 years and hope it works. I am very calculated and I try to figure out a strategic way to wealth. And so I had to make sure a lot of things were in order. Number one is my wife and I were both working. Could her income alone support us if I fell on my face? And the answer was yes. But on top of that, I wanted to make sure I proved out my model before I took the leap of faith. And so for 12 straight months, I made sure, obviously we were debt free at that point in time. We paid off our house, everything, which was kind of controversial. And so we had zero debt. Our expenses, I think, might have been at the time $3,500 a month. It was low in Cincinnati, Ohio, a couple years back. And so we didn't have a high maintenance requirement to live. And so between my wife's job, all of that, our emergency fund, set up, the next step was proving out my business model. And I wanted to make sure I could be at or above my 9 to 5 income for 12 straight months. It got cut short and I was pushed into entrepreneurship a lot faster at the 10-month mark, because Deloitte actually found out I was doing Budget Dog on the side. They gave me an ultimatum. I decided to take that leap of faith, and here we are today. But, at first the goal was to prove it out, and I did it for 10 straight months. I would expect I would have done it for the next 2, given I did after, Deloitte, I was gone. But I think that was a big piece of our journey, was being able to prove out a business model that actually worked before I actually took that leap of faith. And I did it concurrently with my Deloitte job, which is very high and, high hours, lots of hours, busy season, stuff like that. But I think anybody that has a will to do that, that has a purpose, they're going to figure it out. They're going to do that.
There's so much there that I want to unpack because I know I talk to a lot of our clients that are in Deloitte and it's a grind, right? So for you to have that extra energy, that fire to like burn the midnight oil, and this is what people don't want to hear, but I did the same thing. I was working corporate, I was grinding on the side and before work, and that's the commitment and the price, right? It's to build it. So I'd love to hear from you. Like, how did you find the energy? Did you have a family at that time, or what was the situation?
Yeah, so it was actually just my wife and I, which was made things a lot easier. We have 2 little girls now, 2.5 and 5 months, 6 months, I guess it is. Working in LA, they're little ones now. It would have been different. We would have figured out a way if they were there, but we didn't have them at the time. So it was just 2 dogs, my wife and me. And so she understood we were in this together and we were making a journey to the life that we wanted to live. And so she was willing to not see me as much. And I would probably be at the office real late. And then, right after I'd be pushing for the budget dog stuff. And I think the biggest thing with that is, we had 5 weeks of PTO, we had weekends, we had nights. If I was not doing Deloitte stuff, I was doing budget dog stuff. And a lot of people don't want to hear that, like you said, because they're like, well, I want the easy beach, I'm sitting on a beach enjoying my margarita type life. Let me be honest, I've never lived that life. I mean, yeah, I was sitting at the pool the other day, but I was still working, right? And so I think it's a really, really misunderstood concept that, all this entrepreneurship talk is just so easy and you just like wake up and, you get up and have your coffee and just hang out. But it's not like that at all. It was a absolute grind. There were 4-hour sleep nights and that was a pretty regular thing. Whether that was healthy, wrong, right, whatever the case is, I'm not here to judge. I just did what had to be done to make sure it happened. To now we live a life that we love. My wife's staying at home. You might hear my girls screaming in the house at different times on this podcast, but she's staying at home. She's helping my daughter who has special needs, who we moved all the way across the nation to Dallas to get her the help she needs. But the reason we were able to do that is because my wife could quit her job because of the life we built and the process and journey we went through to be in this position. Then I quit my Deloitte job and all of these different things transpired because of the decisions we made 10 years ago, 5 years ago. And now we're living a life that we love, but it doesn't come easy and you're going to get hit in the face a lot of times.
Ease and flow doesn't come from just ease and flow, right?
Exactly. Spot on. Oh my,
I know.
I always talk about this is the most successful people in the world are ones that are able to withstand resistance time and time again, are able to constantly, take the punch in the face and get back up. One of my corporate values is literally don't give up. And it's the whole goal behind that is get punched 8 times, get up 9. And so it doesn't matter how many times you get punched, you always have to get back up. Or, if you don't quit, you're not going to fail.
Exactly. So I want to go back to something I heard you say, how you just are completely focused on debt free when you started your business. And I want to get your perspective on debt because I know a lot of people can create wealth with the debt. So there's good debt and bad debt. And I think there's a lot of people in fear to even invest in themselves. They don't want to use a credit card. So I have a unique perspective on this, but I'd love to hear, what is your perspective on debt?
Yeah, that's such a fantastic question. So to put in perspective, I paid off a 2.375% mortgage. Now, granted, this wasn't in today's times. This was back when rates were, much lower. You couldn't get guaranteed returns above that. But here's my take on debt is I don't look at it as good or bad. I look at it as debt is debt. And you can use it for, I guess you could say, good or bad. And you could build wealth or you could destroy your wealth with it really, really quickly. It's a tool at the end of the day, right? The way I looked at it personally, and this was a heavy, very, very heavy hot debate on Twitter of me paying off my low interest debt, was nobody took into consideration what actually transpired with our life after. And oftentimes a spreadsheet can't do that. And so we have very, very detailed content on why we did this, the process we took. But when we pay that off, I was thinking about the risk, and I think life's all about risk, right? All this additional risk that you have. And so I'm looking at my life risk. I'm not looking at financial risk specifically. I knew we were going to be fine from that perspective. But when I was, taking on this entrepreneurship risk, I was trying to eliminate all other risks because, like you said, or like I said earlier, I'm pretty calculated in my decision making. And so if I could eliminate all the stress and hurdle over here, I could then take the risk on the entrepreneurship, which then would catapult my income in a massive way to then make up for the math that was arguably lost. We did all the math, all the detailed math, everything was, very listed out. But if you use debt to your benefit because you want to get ahead, because let's say you're trying to get into a program and you can't afford it, but you need it. I think that there might be, the reason you aren't in the position you are is because you need the program and you're going to be put in debt. You might take one step back, but you're going to also take 10 steps forward. And so I see this a lot of times. We give people opportunity in my program all the time is like, you're going into more debt, technically speaking, to fix the problem once and for all and be done with it and move fast. And that's what I really, really believe in wholeheartedly because I've seen it play out in my real life. You got to take chances. And so you need to calculate your risk in your life and what you're willing to take on to where you excel at the best of your ability. And I think that's ultimately the sell on the debt. Not right, not wrong. It's just how do you position it in your life to maximize your capability?
I love that because it's like anyone that's going to achieve wealth has to navigate calculated risk. If you don't take any risk, you're not going to get wealthy because
100%.
creating a business is inherently risk.
All risk. All risk. You live with risk every single day. If you try to save your way to wealth, you're not going to make it. To put simply, you got to take risk. The biggest risk is not doing anything, quite honestly. If saving is a huge risk, inflation, as we all know, is just crushing us daily. If you're not moving forward with assets, cash flowing assets, businesses, all this kind of stuff, you're not going to make it. You really aren't. And like I warn people about that all the time. People feel safe in their little bubble of cash in their savings account. And I'm like, I don't care if it's a high yield savings account or not. You're not moving forward. You're literally staying the same or moving backwards. When are you going to take that chance to move forward? Because the biggest risk right now is you have a fixed guaranteed inflation rate eating you alive. And until you understand the difference in how people actually build wealth and the risk you have to take, it's going to be hard.
So with a lot of the clients I work with, these high-level executives, I think they are such calculated perfectionists and they've got a more conservative approach to wealth building. And I come from the vantage point like you, it's like scared money doesn't make money. Like you're just going to stay stagnant. So how do you help your clients get over these limiting beliefs about money that keep them like in this fear state around it?
Yeah, the great question. So we actually have designed, like I've worked with, like I said, thousands of people. We have come across the exact issues that people have and we provided solutions for them. One of the first things every student would do is meet with a behavioral psychologist. And the reason they do that is because there are a lot of limiting beliefs, negative cognitions in people's heads. I'm not smart enough. I'm not, blah, blah, blah. They'll tell themselves lies all the time. And unless you meet with this individual that uncovers your subconscious, you're going to operate in your subconscious 90% of the time. And unless you get out of that or you're aware of that to rewire your programming, you're going to constantly do the same thing over and over and over. And they call that insanity. But it's also very, human to be insane, technically speaking, by the definition, because the way we're wired and the subconscious that we're actually being, programmed in. And so you have to dig deep, peel back the onion in a massive way. And that's what we've been doing personally is knowing why you're doing what you're doing and asking yourself why 28 times in like a little child until you get to that root cause, twist that, turn it, whatever you need to do to fix that problem. Then you'll start moving much faster when you get to that root cause. And so I think everybody needs to have this really, really deep work on themselves so that they can get past those negative cognitions or those limiting beliefs, because that's the only thing holding most people back.
That's how I know you're the real deal, because you're getting to the root cause of the problem, because it's the rest is all, symptoms, right, of the decisions. And so for you, I'm just thinking this is really fascinating. What do you think makes a millionaire mindset? What are some of the unique beliefs that you hold that are rare?
Yeah, I've done YouTube videos on this, podcasts on this, everything. Here's what I'll say is I've been in the position of negative $8,000 net worth at the age of 22. Like it wasn't like I came from wealth. I had financial education growing up. My parents don't know what a Roth IRA is. Love them, but they don't know the basics out there. So I grew up with the very middle class, average mindset. I didn't know what investing was. I thought saving was the way to go. And I actually did a podcast and YouTube yesterday on this specifically. Is I would have $1 million more to my name at the age of 40 if I would have invested the money I earned from 16 to 23. But I didn't know any better, and so it's no fault to anybody that they weren't taught, but it's your job to unlearn what you've always been taught and fix those problems at its core. To where not only have I fixed our problems, my wife and I as well, financially, but I've also helped my daughters who are, like I said, 2.5 and 6 months. And my 2.5-year-old's net worth is already 25,000. And this isn't going to be, a trust fund baby that just has no drive, work ethic, or anything like that. She's gonna be the real deal. She's gonna, bust her butt in every single way. And she doesn't know exactly the money she's gonna have, all that kind of stuff. And as long as you teach the values, discipline, the culture, the responsibility with this stuff, she's going to be such a leg up on everybody because of that. And she'll be a boss. And I know that for a fact. And so I think it's really, really important that you have that mindset and you change that. But, the millionaire mindset really comes down to understanding that if you move with the herd, you're going to get the herd results. And those herd results are savings, thinking investing is risky, not taking chances, working the basic 9 to 5 your whole life, and never assuming anything else is out there for you. Not to say the 9 to 5 is wrong, but like, live the life that you want to live, choose the life that you want to live. And a lot of people don't think that they can choose their life. And it's sad, but I try to talk to people all the time. You can absolutely choose your life if you decide to. It's not going to be easy. You might start with a disadvantage somebody else doesn't have. Like I said, my daughter has Dravet syndrome. We could sit here and cry about it and say, well, she's 1 in 16,000, she just isn't going to do it. Or we could figure out, hey, we're going to raise $1 million for Dravet syndrome. That's our current goal at Budget Dog. The book is a big initiative. We have $0 profits going to ourselves. Everything goes to Dravet syndrome. We've raised $70,000 since January of this year. We're going to make a change. We moved across the nation for her. We've had my wife quit her 9 to 5. I quit my 9 to 5. All these adjustments were because of her, because we've chosen to make this a positive, right? People could be in their feelings all day long, but there's no benefit to doing that. Like, if I just point at fingers at somebody and say, well, you're lucky you have a healthy child, that doesn't do anything for us. That doesn't do anything for her. That hurts her. And that's selfish of us to even say that. So we need to thank her for giving us an opportunity to change her whole life, but not only her life, but other people's lives. So the $1 million goal we're raising is not just for her. It's not just for Javette. It's for all of the children that have this situation. But the biggest takeaway from this whole thing is that I am proving every single day that I choose the life I want to live. We will raise $1 million for Dravet syndrome. That's just part of the game. I guarantee I'll do that because I've chosen to. And I put that out publicly and I want to show everyone I'll do it. And if you guys want to be a part of that, great. It's awesome. If you want to choose the life you want to live, great. I'll help you get there. But you have to get past that mindset to be in the belief that you can do this. And that's where it starts.
Wow, that is so inspiring. Thank you for sharing because, I've got a son with special needs with autism, and it's so big to give back to that community and turn it into purpose with the wealth that you're creating. Because I think, I would have to assume that you've got a strong faith and value system to be, because I can just tell by what your purpose that's driving you. So how has faith played a role in your wealth journey?
Massively. Without faith, there's no chance I'd be doing this, right? Because life's going to throw you tons of curveballs, to say the least. And if you constantly get down on yourself and don't have a bigger belief outside of yourself, you're probably going to fall victim to it. It's just part of the, that's what happens. And so if you can't see and I always say this for everybody, like when I started my business, like it wasn't about me. It wasn't about just making money. It was about helping other people get to the goals that they wanted to get to. And so that's really where this whole journey started. And ultimately what the whole mission behind Budget Dog is giving back, providing value. I know I'll get mine. I'm not worried about that. I already have. I don't need any more, to be honest. And I think that's a big driver to this whole thing. I don't sit here with a desire to go buy a Lamborghini or go buy more stuff. Like, sure, could I go do that? Yeah. Do I have any desire whatsoever? Nope. I'd rather be a family guy. I'd rather just hang out with my daughters, take walks with my wife and my dogs and my daughters and stuff like that, is spend time with them. That's all I need. So I don't need more money, and therefore I enjoy helping other people get to the goals that they want to get to. And faith has played a major role in being able to understand what's important. And I think that's a huge thing, part of the values, the culture, all that kind of stuff I talk about often. You don't need more stuff. Yeah, so I don't think you need stuff. And I think people that search for stuff are searching for something else, and they are trying to really find out who they are inside. And so once you really ground yourself and understand who you are and what your purpose is, you're not going to be searching for the next biggest house or next biggest whatever, checking what your neighbor has or friend needs. You don't need that. Like, it's not going to change your life in any meaningful way. And so, I've had some significant income increases over the last, 5-10 years. And really, I'll be honest, after about $90,000 a year, my life has not changed from like a status perspective or a lifestyle perspective. I guess you could, say we don't have as much stress buying different things. My daughter's seizure monitors and all these types of things she requires, we are able to do that comfortably. And so that's tough on a lot of families. But outside of that, our lifestyle hasn't changed. Could we go change it? Absolutely. Does it matter for us? No.
That's huge. And that's really what I created this podcast for, is to help people see, to achieve a high level. You can't really sustain the performance if you're not aligned to your values and your purpose. And if it's to impress people or whatever, that just won't sustain the commitment required to keep the wealth, right?
You'll die out so fast. You'll buy the wrong things. You'll get fooled. You'll invest in silly opportunities, get rich quick stuff, and it's not sustainable at all. I think that the reason why we have such a sustainable model is because it's fundamental. It's basic. It's not, going for the latest crypto project or the latest AI technology or the latest, you name it. And not to say any of those things are wrong, but I do think that people chase things just to chase things, just because they don't really know what they're doing. It goes back to the whole investing principle and fundamental, analysis of investing is like, start with your goal in mind. What are you actually trying to get to? Then work backwards. And it's not rocket science, but a lot of people are like, what stock should I pick? It's like, why are you even picking that stock to begin with? It's like, because you think that that's going to get you to the number that you're trying to get to, the money, the random number, arbitrary number you've thrown out there in your mind, but you don't have purpose or goals, and you're just going to randomly throw, darts at a dartboard. And that's not how we want to live our life. And so it's more than just money. And on my website, it's bigger than math. It's bigger than money. There's a reason I say that, is because it's so much deeper, and people can really build wealth fast if they fix themselves internally and focus on themselves to be better people, to focus on the right things, to have the right values. And social media is kind of just, I'd say fast tracked a lot of people to the wrong route, focusing on the wrong things. Not to say their priorities and values weren't that before, but now social media fast tracks that. They show it every day. It's on repeat. It's programmed in their mind, and they're starting to move in the wrong direction, many people.
Well, that's why we're here to influence the masses towards alignment, right? And purpose.
Yes.
So I want to ask you, that brings me to the big question. How do you define financial freedom? How do you help your clients define that for themselves?
Yeah, I think the most basic would be the basic number, FI number, let's call it 25, 30 to extra expenses from a technical perspective. But I think the bigger thing is understanding really what you want out of life and the lifestyle that you want to lead. Not everybody wants to leave their 9 to 5. Not everybody wants to retire on a beach and sip margaritas for the next 40 years of their life. What is the life that you want to, what do you desire? What do you truly desire? Not what social media has told you, not what your friends and family have told you or soaked in your mind. What do you deeply want? And whatever that is, we can put a price tag on that, and what the number is, we can work backwards to get there. And I think that's the most important piece of this whole puzzle, is knowing what you're here for. What's your ultimate purpose? Do you want to help other people? Do you want to lead a mission? Do you want to just be, alone, desolate island? I don't know, whatever your goals are. It doesn't matter what those goals are, but define that lifestyle. Don't even put a number to it at first. Just dream. Think about what life you want to live. Everything else we can align with that mission once we know what that mission is. All about alignment. Everything should serve you and your family and what your mission is. They should all align together at all times, because a lot of people are just doing this like money thing, and I see it all the time because I'm in the space, just to make more money. And I'm like, that is such the most empty goal I could ever imagine. Just make more money for the sake of making more money. It's like, hey, let's build a business because this is the mission that I have, to help other people to find themselves and to be better people and accomplish the goals they want to accomplish. And I'm aligning my business with Budget Dog with exactly that. It's not to make more money. But what I've noticed is when you align yourself, you typically make more money. It's kind of weird how it works. And so at Deloitte, I was making a lot less. I hated what I did. And it wasn't fun. It was a good starter, position. I learned a lot, but it was a passion. Was I excited to go to work? No. And people ask me all the time, how many hours do you work a week? I have no idea. I literally have no idea. I'm always thinking about this or family. So it's like, does thinking count? Like, yeah, it's just a big mission. I like to do it. So I don't keep a time chart of my hours. I would never do that. I'm past corporate at that stage.
You
So
know, if you're in alignment with your purpose when you're not watching how much you're working because it's introducing you. And this is what people don't understand when you get that alignment with a greater calling and a purpose that lights your soul on fire. It's like there's nothing you'd rather be doing.
I would not, like, I literally itch to do this. Like, I want to do this. Like, my mom's like, you work a lot. I'm like, I mean, kind of. I guess you could, she was a teacher, and she wasn't in love. She liked it, but she'd always have the stressors. I'm like, Mom, I love to do this. I love to help people. Like, when I get on a call with a student, or I'm on an IG live, or I'm on a podcast like right now, or I go speak at an event, like, I like that. That's an enjoyment. And so I would rather do that than watch Netflix or play video games or whatever the heck people do nowadays in their free time. It's just not really fun for me.
I hear you. I think we're very similar. So I'm curious, what is the biggest mistake people keep making that keeps them from really building wealth that you're seeing?
I think pretty much what we're talking about right now is that they're searching for the wrong stuff and they're focused on the wrong thing. And, a lot of times people will go to like the issue they're having. They'll be like, hey, I want to learn how to invest, or I want to learn how to pay off this debt. And I'm like, that's not a bad start, but we need to think bigger than that, because that's like the actions that we'll take to get you to your goal. But what's your actual goal? Because a lot of times people are like, my goals are, I want to pay off the student debt. I want to pay off my credit card debt. I want to invest a ton of money. I want to retire by 45. I'm like, okay, tell me why. Like, what are you really trying to do here? We can figure out the math later. The math is the simple part. The technical steps are easy. What do you really want to do? And then they're like, well, I really want to be with my children all the time. I really want to give back to the community. I really want to do, and I'm like, okay, we're getting somewhere. And so I think starting with that in mind and working backward to the action steps that you have to take to get there is everything. And that's why people aren't succeeding, because they're focused on the quick stuff, or what stock should I pick, or, should I sell my investments today because the market dropped by 2%? Like, all these crazy things. Like, just chill, guys. Think bigger than that.
So I have to ask this question because some of my friends that, like myself, come from humble beginnings, right? Middle class, lower middle class, or whatever. Did you ever have like the desire to buy that opulent thing, like that thing that you dreamed of? And that, what's your thought on opulence and just starting to kind of enjoy the fruits of the labor a little bit? Do you ever do any of that?
So that's a great question. This is probably a different take than you might be expecting, or anybody. I think when you have a deep down desire to buy something, I think it's from a lack of something. And so I'll be honest. I'm pretty minimalist at heart. Like, I live in a pretty normal house per se. I don't live minimalist style. We have a wife and kids around here, and dogs and other people here. But I'll be honest, like, I joke all the time. If I was by myself, I might live in a box. Like, I just focus on really what matters. And align with that. Like, seriously, like, I really don't care. No matter if I had 20 million or 100 million or whatever the case is. And so I think a lot of it does stem from that. Not to judge people, not to say like, hey, it's wrong to think that or whatever by any means. I've never had a desire from as a little kid to ever have more stuff of any sort. Like, I've always wanted more time, and I've always wanted, let's call it simplicity, and less to do's. Like, so, okay, I joke about this all the time. It's actually my book. When I was a little kid, let's say 5 years old, I would shower the night before. No judgment here, guys. Shower the night before. I would put on my school uniform. I would my bed was tucked, and I would I would wear my uniform to bed, put my sleeping bag on top of me, and I would wake up, throw my sleeping bag under. My bed was already made. I was already ready to go, and I could walk out the door. And so that might sound real weird to some people, and I totally get that. But what I was trying to accomplish, what I didn't know at the time, was more time and less hassle of the day to day, and simplifying and systemizing my whole entire life at the age of 5. It turned out a real weird way back then. But I've done that ever since. I like to systemize. I like to organize things that we can control, because if I can do that, I can focus on everything else that needs my time. And I think a lot of times in America, we have so much stuff. We have so much these easy to-dos that we could systemize and organize in a lot better way, so that we have more time to focus on what matters and delivering value to the world and your talents and stuff like that. But we're so busy and hustle that we never can actually get our talents out and maximize our talents. So we're always sitting in this cycle of like, got to get to work, got to get to the gym, got to do this, got to get, it's an endless cycle. And that's why a lot of people are unhappy.
That's so true. Okay. So and I do wonder now, you said earlier, the fastest path to wealth is building a business. So do you believe everyone should build a business, or is it, I mean, I kind of come from the perspective that I don't think everyone's cut out for that path.
Not most people aren't cut out for that path. So I guess the question, how I was answering earlier, was like, what's the fastest? Typically that's the fastest because it could make you the most money. It also could bankrupt you. There's the opposite side of things, 100%. It is not for everybody. I'll be honest. Like, do I think most people could figure it out if they changed like a lot of the chemical makeup, which is a very hard thing to do? Probably, but like, is it reasonable for the average person? No. There's a percentages out there, data backed and all that kind of stuff, for like how many people can run a business. I can tell you right now, if you don't have a dog in you and you aren't willing to get punched in the face, like bloodied every single day, you're probably not built and cut for this. You gotta be able to withstand that stuff. You gotta be able to go through struggles. I built my business in a hospital. We lived in a hospital in 2022. So as I was building this, my daughter's in the ER in the hospital. We had 3-day stays or whatever the case is. And obviously I was there for 100%. My wife was there too. But, there's a lot of downtime in hospitals. So I'd be grinding and, taking calls in the cafeteria and going into, just in the little tiny bed in the hospital room, working, building. And I don't think a lot of people would be able to handle that. With the emotional, you got to be able to compartmentalize. I think I'm a big fan of Tom Brady. And one thing he says is he can compartmentalize a lot of things. And so you got to distance yourself from everything and put yourself in the right mindset at the right time. And that's very hard for people to do because there's a lot of emotions as humans. And so there's a lot of overlap as well. If you can't get that out of your mind, and you're only thinking about that, how people deal with trauma and different things like that, it's going to be a big challenge.
So this is my last question for you. So for the people out there listening that are knowing they don't want to start their own business, they just know they're not cut out for that journey, how can they create financial freedom?
Yeah, it's really mastering the fundamentals. And whether you move up in your corporate career, whether you move up, like, it doesn't matter where you're making your money per se. Like, you don't have to create a business. Obviously, sometimes that's the quickest because you make the most. You control your income. But if you're in corporate America right now and you're trying to move up fast, there are extreme ways to do so. Like, there's a lot of different strategies to move your way up into the corporate ladder to increase your income. But I always say income is speed. And so while income is important, it is only speed. If you don't have a systematic structure to account for that income, what happens is it like a lot of lottery winners, they go bankrupt. A lot of NFL players go bankrupt. They lose all their money. It's because they have no system and structure and they don't know what they're spending their money on. And you can spend money pretty easily. So if you make millions of dollars, it doesn't really matter if you don't know where it's going, why it's going there. It's automated, systemized. There's the fundamentals in unlock. And if you do that, you're going to be really successful. So I think building that systemized, structured, and automated financial system to account for all the income that you do earn, you'll just speed your process up the more income you earn. And I think that's the way you build financial freedom the right way, and not try to go get rich quick.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time, your wisdom, your insight. It's been so inspiring, and looking forward to sharing this.
Yeah, thank you, Olivia, for having me on. It was a pleasure.